Ugh, always so quick to get carried away, aren't you? Miranda, for a family that's not well off, maybe you shouldn't be living it up on my husband's dime. My sister-in-law, Miranda, let out a snooty laugh and directed that comment toward our family. Right now, we're smack dab in the middle of a Hawaii vacation, all of us, including her. Despite that, why would she make such a mood-killer comment? Sure, this trip was planned by my brother, who's a doctor. She has no right to complain given my brother's generosity. However, I'm her sister-in-law. No matter how irritated I get, I can't voice it out loud. I was thinking I had to change the mood somehow when suddenly, PFFD, Hada, Haga Haga. The atmosphere completely changed with my mom's laughter. My name is Elisa, and I'm 20 years old. I'm an ordinary college student attending the School of Education at a private university. I'm aspiring to become a childcare worker. My days are packed with assignments, hands-on training, and part-time jobs. The reason I can work so hard is all thanks to my family. I currently live with my parents. My dad is an office worker, and my mom works part-time at nearby bakery, a typical American family. I find great comfort in this normal family setup. Apart from my parents, I have an older brother, John, who's 8 years my senior. John graduated from a state medical school and is currently working at the hospital where my maternal grandfather serves as the director. Despite having such an accomplished brother, both my dad and mom support my dreams without comparing the two of us. Especially my mom, she's always been incredibly considerate towards me. It seems her own past experiences influenced her. One day, my mom told me, "You know, Elisa, it doesn't matter if your family is successful. My dad was a doctor too, but I went to culinary school after high school. Didn't you ever consider taking over Grandpa's practice? Darlin', I was never interested in being a doctor. The responsibility of people's lives was just too much for me." She chuckled. "But you were an only child. Maybe Grandpa secretly wanted you to." "Maybe so. But it's my life, right? And now, with John being a doctor, everything turned out okay. My father's just happy that one of his grandchildren has followed in the footsteps. I guess that's true. I don't think Mom ever intended to slight my grandfather. She chose happiness in her own way, which was marrying my father rather than taking over the family practice. Now that John's become a doctor and works at Grandpa's hospital, there's no worry about a successor. It makes me realize my mom has been through a lot. Because of her experiences, she's so supportive of me. Normally, with a brother who's a doctor, there would be some expectations on me. But my mom doesn't expect anything particular from me, nor has she ever abandoned me. She purely believes in letting me be me and John be John. My dad feels the same. When I told him I wanted to become a childcare worker, he didn't hesitate and just said, "Give it your best shot." I'm truly blessed to have such wonderful parents. Given their upbringing, it's no surprise John is also a very easygoing person. Despite being a doctor, he's humble and always supports my dreams. Just the other day, after I had finished my training, he gave me a call. "Hey, Elisa, you finished your training today, right? Well done." "Thanks, John. It was tough this time. I was working with 2-year-old toddlers. Turbo twos, huh? It's amazing how you handle multiple kids at once. I genuinely respect that. Come on, what you do, taking care of people's lives, is way more impressive. You think, it feels a bit awkward getting a compliment from my little sis, Haga. Stop being so shy. Thanks for the call. You bet. We'll hang out soon." Suddenly, from the other end, a chilly voice asked, "Who are you talking to?" Ignoring the voice, John hurriedly said, "Catch you later," and hung up. That voice belonged to Miranda, John's wife. It seems she doesn't like him talking on the phone. There have been times when I hear her voice in the background while talking to John. Whenever she speaks up, he immediately ends the call. It's easy to imagine how she might be domineering towards him. I've always wondered why someone as kind as John married Miranda. Needless to say, I'm not fond of my sister-in-law. From the very first time she visited our home for introductions, my impression of her was terrible. Back then, it was just me, John, and her at home since my parents hadn't returned. As soon as John stepped out, she turned on me. "What's your name again?" "Oh, nice to meet you." I'm Elisa, John's sister. Haga, that's hilarious. John is quite a handsome guy, but you look nothing like that, huh? LOL. What? Elisa, right. Which university? Surely a state university and aiming to become a doctor like John. No, I'm at a private university, aiming to be a preschool teacher. As soon as I said that, her eyes widened in surprise. What, a preschool teacher? She exclaimed. She covered her mouth with her hand, feigning surprise. Whoa, I'm shocked. How does the sister of a doctor end up wanting to be a preschool teacher? LOL. What do you mean by that? Exactly what I said. LOL. Your parents must feel so sorry. They've got a brilliant son, and then there's you wanting to be a preschool teacher. LOL. That's not true. My parents fully support my dream. Lahahada. Seriously? You really think they're supporting you? No way, right? LOL. What? They just have low expectations for you. As long as they have the brilliant John, that's all that matters to them. LOL. That's not true. She hurled these harsh words casually, and I struggled to find a response. When John returned to the living room, she reverted to her cold fiancé demeanor. After that, when Mom and Dad came home and greetings were exchanged, she remained aloof, and most of the conversation was with John. My brother must really like Miranda because he praised her by saying, "She's incredibly kind." Furthermore, he consistently lauded her, stating, "She can make calm and rational decisions." Our parents probably didn't know what to say to John, who was so full of praise for Miranda. The next month, John and Miranda registered their marriage and officially became a couple. When they announced it, I casually asked my mom, "Mom, why did John choose Miranda?" "Why do you ask?" "Well, to be frank, she's not particularly pleasant, right? John said she's kind, but maybe in front of John she is. Look, if John's serious about her, we can't oppose it." "I guess so. As a family, as long as John is happy, that's what matters. So, Elisa, will you support John?" "Yeah, I understand. I mean, if John's happy with Miranda, I've got no complaints, but their marriage affects us all. She becomes my sister-in-law, and for my parents, she's their daughter-in-law. I can't help but worry about our future relationship, given her attitude." A year after their marriage, Miranda's attitude remained unchanged. Whenever John and I talked on the phone, she would get annoyed. Whenever we have family gatherings, Miranda doesn't show up, and it's mostly just my brother. Even on special occasions when they both attend, she's always on her phone and doesn't try to join in the conversation. I harbored complicated feelings about her attitude. Yet, they were already married, and it's not my place to comment. All I could do was hope for my brother's happiness. Then, one day out of the blue, when I got home from college, my mom suddenly said with a big grin on her face, "Elisa, we're going to Hawaii." Hawaii, yes. With John and Miranda, the whole family. Why all of a sudden? And why not somewhere closer but Hawaii? Well, it turns out, this trip was suggested by John. John did. According to Mom, John wanted to make up for not being there enough in the past. Since Dad turned 55 and Mom 50, hitting these milestones, he thought it was a good time for a family trip. That's when my parents suggested, if we're going, we'd all like to go together. And that's how we reached this decision. After hearing the plan, I voiced the question that was troubling me the most to my mom. I mean, I'm excited about going to Hawaii, but isn't Miranda going to have an issue with all of us going together? You'd think so, right? But she seemed surprisingly on board with it, saying, "I'd love to go to Hawaii." Really? Miranda has always wanted to visit Hawaii. Since she said yes, let's all enjoy it together. Right, sounds good. I've never been to Hawaii, so I'm super excited. And just like that, we decided to head to Hawaii in 2 months. The idea of Miranda coming did bring some mixed feelings, but the anticipation of Hawaii overshadowed them. 2 months later, we met up with John and Miranda at the airport and boarded our flight. While my parents and I sat next to each other, John and Miranda had seats way in the back. For this trip, from the flight to the accommodation, my brother made all the reservations. So, it was clear that their seats being apart from ours was intentional. I bet Miranda had insisted on it. At the airport, she only talked to my brother and didn't even greet us. In her mind, it was strictly a vacation with her husband. Both my dad and mom noticed Miranda's attitude, but they didn't show it and seemed to be thoroughly enjoying the trip. My mom even told John, "Why don't you two go sightseeing on your own?" Thanks to my mom's suggestion, I was able to enjoy the trip without worrying about my sister-in-law. But then, an incident occurred. That evening, after returning from sightseeing, my parents and I met up with John and Miranda. At dinner in our hotel, Miranda only spoke to my brother, as usual. My brother, looking somewhat troubled, tried to strike up a conversation with me. "Hey, Elisa, how's it? This is your first time in Hawaii, right?" "No." "Yay. I've only seen it on TV, so it's really amazing to be here." "That's good to hear. I'm glad we chose Hawaii. Thanks for suggesting this trip, John. I'm having such a blast." "Yay, but this trip was..." It was when my brother started to speak. Miranda let out a sarcastic humph and glared at me. There was a momentary silence due to her reaction. Then, Miranda said mockingly, "Ugh, always so quick to get carried away, aren't you?" Miranda, don't call me by my name. WH, why are you saying that? Excuse me. Why would I want to be close to a sister in training to be a preschool teacher, a father who's an office worker, and a mother who works part-time? I only need John. Hold on, that's not fair. For a family that's not well off, maybe you shouldn't be living it up on my husband's dime. In that moment, anger and shock froze my farts. I couldn't find words to counter what she said. It's not that I couldn't respond. I was just so taken aback that I didn't know what to say. It seemed my dad and John felt the same. They just stared, mouths agape, at Miranda, who was chuckling. Suddenly, my mom burst into laughter. PFFT, he, hahaga. Mom. Oh, sorry. It's just too funny. I couldn't help it. LOL. Looking at my mom, who was holding her stomach while laughing, Miranda's face darkened instantly. She must have been really upset as she snapped at my mom. Excuse me. What's so funny? I'm sorry, Miranda dear. Oh, my stomach hurts from laughing. Ick. Riding on someone else's dime to come on this trip and you act like this. Well, maybe I'll just head back then. LOL. What? My mom stood up, signaling to my dad and me, "Let's go." Though surprised at my mom's nonchalance, we followed her lead and left the table. Miranda looked somewhat disgruntled, but it seemed she was fine with us leaving. She didn't say anything as we left, but the next moment, John suddenly stood up, raising his voice at Miranda. "Hey, that was way out of line." "What, John?" "Apologize. To Mom, to my family." I had never seen this side of John before. He was always at Miranda's beck and call, but now he was livid. Maybe she was rattled by this, as Miranda looked tense and desperate. "Hold on, John, what's gotten into you? You always have my back. I've always supported you because you were my choice. But I've reached my limit. I can't deal with a self-centered woman like you anymore." "Why? Why all of a sudden?" "It's obvious. Our trip was possible thanks to Mom." "What?" "Originally, I intended to cover the trip expenses for the whole family. But Mom paid for everyone here, including our expenses." "No way. Your mom did." That was news even to me. John had claimed to pay for everyone, but apparently my mother had told him, "I'll pay, but keep it a secret from others." Even my father, who was usually with her, believed John had covered the trip and was just as shocked by this revelation. Miranda, lost for words, heard John land the final blow. "Thanks to the mom you always mocked, I got the job at the current hospital. And because of that, even you live a comfortable life, you know." "What? What do you mean? Why are you mentioning your mom there? Have you forgotten already? The head of the hospital where I work is my mom's dad." "No. You're lying. I knew it. I always felt you weren't interested in my family. You never really listened, did you? You just wanted to marry a doctor like me, didn't you?" "No, that's not true. I mean, yes, I wanted a better life, but that doesn't mean I disregarded you, John." Miranda reached out, but John pushed her hand away with force. He glared at her with intense anger, cold as ice. "Don't kid with me. I didn't marry you to be used. I was a fool to get married, deceived by your gold-digging ways. But I genuinely loved you, Miranda. Yet you insult my precious family. Wait, John, I promise, from now on It's too late. Even if you change now, your spiteful nature won't. I have no intention of spending my life with someone who looks down on my dear family. It's not my parents who should leave. It's you, Miranda. Miranda's face turned pale as if drained of blood. John's words must have struck deep. Tears filled her eyes as she clung to him. Please wait, John. I beg you. Forgive me. I'll do anything. However, John's expression remained unchanged. Without hurling abuses or dismissing her, he just stared coldly. Unable to bear John's cold demeanor any longer, the next day, Miranda left the country alone. Later on, I heard they got a divorce. It was on the condition that she'd never show her face to John again. There would be no asset division, and it would be as if she had never hurled insults at us. Yet, Miranda's obsession with John was alarming. She reportedly even showed up at his workplace. In the end, John had to contact the police, and a restraining order was issued against Miranda. Now, under the watchful eyes of her parents, I've heard she's living a reclusive life. It seems we won't be seeing her anymore. Our parents, too, appear relieved. The happiness of a family is what a family desires the most indeed, an event that made us realize that once again.